Hello, everyone. It's Tracy coming to you live from New Hampshire Writers Project headquarters. I hope everyone is well. I am here with internationally best-selling author Tess Gerritsen. How are you, Tess?
I'm doing great this evening.
Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited to talk to you and get to know a little bit more about you and your keynote for the Writers Conference coming up on June 14th. I also know that you're going to be a pitch party judge, which is going to be very exciting for those people who are pitching. And we just want to learn more about you and what you might have coming up in the works.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get started. Ask away.
I love it. Okay, so many people might know you for the series Rizzoli and Isles, which I know was a TNT series back in the day. And I'm just curious, because this hit TV show, what was it like seeing your characters brought to life?
It's a little surreal because, when we were writing the books, we imagine our characters looking the way we think they should look. And then television comes in and brings a totally different look, a different dimension. And so it took me a while to adjust to the fact that my very plain characters on the page have turned into these two beautiful women on television. But I think the best thing about having your books turned into television is that it brings more people to the books. It encourages people to read about, where these characters came from.
Yeah, I agree. And you've also had a remarkable journey from medicine to best-selling author. So I'm very curious to learn a little bit more about this journey. What made you or what inspired you to make the leap from MD to fiction writer?
I was always a writer, and I knew I wanted to be a storyteller since I was 7 years old, because I was reading a lot of Nancy Drew. And if you ask mystery writers who are, women in the United States, a lot of them will say they grew up on Nancy Drew. But my dad said writing was no way to make a living. So
Ah,
he encouraged me to go into the sciences. And I like science anyway. I ended up in medical school, finished my residency, and was in training and went on maternity leave. And there I was at home with my baby who was sleeping many hours. And I thought, I'm going to get back into writing. And that's when I wrote my first book. It took a couple of books and a couple of years for me to feel confident enough to devote myself full time to writing, but eventually it happened. So, the transition is really writer, medicine, back to writer.
well, I find that fascinating that you started to write while you were on maternity leave because most people would take the opportunity to sleep while their newborn is sleeping. But you decided to go a very different direction.
Well, I was really lucky that both my boys, they would sleep these long hours. So I had the chance to, whenever I put them down, I would snatch a page or two. So in that way, I was able to write a book within the first year.
That's amazing. Well, and now you can brag that you have 40 million copies sold and 40 languages translated. So, what do you think resonates most with your readers around the world?
I think a lot of beginning authors think that it's a crackerjack plot that gets people pulled into books. I really think it's characters. And I didn't really hit, huge bestseller lists around the world until I came up with Jane and Maura. That female buddy, relationship, the fact that I felt I knew these women so well that I could have conversations with them in my head. I believe that readers were having the same conversations, that they would see something about Jane and Maura that they could relate to. So I think it's really that I found that right combination of characters and relationships that brought people into the world, at least, of Rizzoli and Isles.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of resourceful women as well, which I know is the theme for this year's conference and for your keynote, which you will be giving on June 14th. So, what I'm curious because of that theme, and the fact that you've embodied this in your career and in your characters, what does that phrase mean to you personally?
We all women face challenges. Sometimes the challenges are huge, like, maybe you're a migrant on the road and you're just struggling to take care of your children. That's the worst challenge of all. On the other hand, maybe you are a wealthy daughter who's just trying to make her way through life apart from your very famous father. There are different challenges, but resourcefulness is all about rising to the occasion. And the other thing I also like to explore is women being faced with choices, ethical choices. being able to keep their moral compass despite temptations to choose another way. So I feel as if in most of my books, my female characters have to make a choice, and the resourcefulness that they are going to draw from is not just for themselves. It's about the larger ethics of their world and what that challenge is. So resourcefulness is not just surviving on your own or becoming successful. It's looking out for other people.
I love that. That's very well said. And without giving too much away, Tess, what can attendees expect to take away from your keynote at the 603 Writers Conference?
Well, I think they'll take away. I'm hoping it's not just about women and challenges. It's also about the challenge of writing and what they can do, how they can approach their stories, their own stories, in a way that makes it connect with other people. Where do we get ideas from? That's the other thing I get asked all the time: is where did the ideas from my books arise from? Is there an idea factory? So I think that's what people like to hear. Where should they look for that spark of the next book? And also, where do characters come from? I often thought I would retire, and you know what stops me from retiring? I'll finish a book, I'll be tired, I think I'm going to go on vacation, and then a character starts talking to me. It is that character, or it's my characters who keep pulling me back into their world and going, I have another story. And I think that it's almost, what is the word? It's almost like channeling. It's almost as if I'm a psychic medium, and my characters want me to tell their story. So that is really the key, I think, to my storytelling.
Well, and I can imagine too, as you travel and all the interesting people that you meet, there must be bits and pieces of the uniqueness of these individuals that make up your characters as you're putting it all together.
Oh yeah, I mean, our lives are full of characters, and I have to say, my latest series of books, which is based on my hometown and based on people that I have met here, is very much all about my relationships with my little town. I'm surrounded by retired CIA up here, which is a kind of a weird thing about
Interesting.
and so my latest series of books is all about retired CIA agents in a little town in Maine. But that is because I like to listen to what people's stories are. I want to find out what their lives are like, but I'm also interested in what they don't want to tell me, because the things they don't want to tell you, those are the best stories of all.
Agreed. Oh, what a great technique. I love it. So, in addition to the keynote, I know that you will also be a pitch party judge.
Yeah.
So, in the pitch party is one of the most anticipated events as well of the conference. So, I'm curious from your perspective, why is learning to pitch your book effectively so important?
Well, it helps you focus. I think it helps you focus yourself on what your story is about. When I hear a pitch, and I want to hear a pitch that's no longer than 5 sentences long. If it takes any longer, then you're probably going too far. In fact, the best what ifs, I think, can be distilled down to 2 sentences. What I want to hear is an emotion. I am really trying to glom onto what is the emotional core of your story. And who is this story? What is this story about? Who is the story about? I think unsuccessful pitches tend to be focused on, I guess, plot as opposed to character. So I want to feel the emotions of this character. I want to feel their stakes, and I want to hear a little bit about what their choice is, what their moral choice is in this story. If you can involve me in the character's life or in their dilemma, then it makes me want to hear the story.
I love that. And so, what advice might you give to writers attending the conference who want to enter the pitch party but a little bit nervous on how the process might work, or how the judging process might work? Is there any advice or anything you could say to kind of make them feel more at ease and take that leap out of their comfort zone?
Oh, we're all faced with this. With getting in an elevator with an editor, it's really kind of scary, right? Well, it's kind of like you're in the elevator with me, and just tell me, what is your book is about? Who is your character? What is your main character? What is the dilemma that they're facing? I'm hoping that people will be relaxed about this, and that it's really all designed to help you crystallize in your own mind what your story is about. It will help you write your book. If you know, for instance, that your book is really about loss, it's about this character having lost something terrible in their past career, that helps me understand what this book is about. It also helps me with the tone of the book. If it's funny, then it's, emotions aren't as important. But if it's a tearjerker, I really need to know why I should shed tears for this character.
Well, and I think it's so important for writers to step out of their comfort zone too, because outside of the box is where you start to learn and start to grow.
Mhm.
So, one of the reasons why we have the pitch party at the conference is because we want to, make it a little uncomfortable for people and have them in a supportive environment try something new. So I
Right.
think that's why the pitch party has always been so popular at the conference, because it does provide that supportive environment with peers and with professional judges. And I'm really glad that you'll be a part of that panel this year.
Well, I also hope, I'm not sure how much time I get per pitch per person, because sometimes I will hear a pitch and I'll think, what if you took it in a different direction? And then it becomes a brainstorming session. And that is what's really fun, is I get a germ from somebody and I think, well, if you turned it around like 90 degrees, maybe the story would be much more interesting to you. And it's happened more than once that just giving them another idea or another way of approaching the story, there you see a light bulb go over their head and they go, oh my God, now I know what the book is about. Now I can go home and write it. Now it just completely changes everything. So it's not just me hearing your pitch. I'm hoping that there'll be something I can contribute to their project, that they can see it in a new way.
Yeah, and that's how it worked last year as well, with all of the panelists being able to give some constructive feedback to the individual pitching. Imagine, if you will, like a writer's Shark Tank. It's kind of that, standing up there, giving your pitch, waiting for feedback from the sharks, things like that.
Yeah.
And I just love the structure of it, because I think it's just such a great platform for writers and authors to just learn, again, in a supportive environment. And I can't stress that enough. It's a very supportive environment amongst peers and experts. And I think, again, that's why I think it's so popular.
Yeah.
So great information. And I know also that you have spoken at many different conferences and many different venues. And I'm just curious what advice you might give to people who are kind of on the fence, wondering about the investment for this conference. What could you tell them about, experiencing the day and learning and networking? What advice would you give to help them
I
come and register?
Yeah, well, I think just knowing that you're not alone, that other people are struggling with the same issues you're struggling with. You don't know how this book is going forward, that there are different techniques, and also to be able to hear somebody give you permission to write badly. This is the one thing I think that beginning any author needs to learn, is that first draft. Don't worry if it's bad, because that's the process, and that everybody's process is different. It's also important to learn there's no right way or wrong way to write a story. Whatever works for you is fine. I'm not going to set down rules. I just want you to finish the book. And that's the other thing that I think, we need to encourage each other about is when you're writing that first draft, turn off your editor, make that editor go away. Just tell the story and feel the story, and don't worry too much about whether it's presentable yet, because that's where the second, third, and 10th draft is all about.
I find that is such valuable advice, because I know for myself, and I think I speak for several writers, especially for members that I network with in our groups and stuff. It is so hard to put that inner critic, that editor aside, and
Mhm.
just write, and just journal and just let it flow. And I envy people who can do that well. So I think that is such a great piece of advice. If you can put that inner critic aside, you can really get some great brainstorming down on paper. And you're right. Once you get to the 10th draft or more, that's when that critic can come back. And that's why there's experts out there called editors to help you with those things.
Right.
Exactly. So let's, if we could, maybe take a look forward into what's coming next for you. Your work spans novels, film, even documentaries. I'm curious, are there any upcoming projects you're excited about and can share a hint of with us?
Well, I'm finishing I hope it's a final draft of the third book in the Spy Coast series, which is now in development at Amazon Studios for a TV show.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a whole new series that I'm loving, and the only reason I can't stop thinking about these books is that I love my characters. They speak to me because they're all people of a certain age. So that third book is coming out, and then I have my writing partner and I have sold a pilot episode, a pilot show to NBC called Vacation Land, and it's set in Maine. I call it a love affair between a woman and a town, and it kind of mirrors my experience of moving to Maine 35 years ago and feeling, like this is the place I've always meant to be. So that apparently NBC liked it. So
That's
we're
fantastic.
we're waiting to see if it gets the green light. And just always looking for ideas, listening for ideas, listening for my characters, and waiting for them to tell me what happens next.
Well, congratulations. That's very inspiring. I can't wait to learn more about this at the 603 conference. I just wanted to let you know that Margaret is here. She's saying hello. I wanted to mention too that Margaret will also be a workshop presenter at the 603 Writers Conference, and I know you guys were friends, so I'm
Yes.
glad she's watching us tonight.
From way back. I don't want to say how long we've known each other. It's been a long time.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tess, before I let you go, I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
For aspiring authors tuning in tonight, what's one piece of encouragement you'd offer that you wish someone had told you early on in your career?
Listen for your character's voice in your head. I mean, I can't tell you how important it is to be able to an auditory hallucination of somebody talking to you is the best gift you can get as a writer. When your character starts talking to you and they have a story to tell, let them tell the story. And I think that really makes the books almost write themselves.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I really appreciate your insight, you taking the time to speak to us at the 603 Writers Conference, being a part of the pitch party, being a judge, and just all the wonderful resources and networking and expert advice you're going to share with us on June 14th. And just a reminder to our members, if you're watching tonight, this is the last day for the early bird deadline. Just go to nhwritersproject.org if you want to grab that ticket. And thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your chiming in and saying hello. We appreciate it. And Tess, I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in person on June 14th.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
All right. Sounds great. Have a great evening, everyone.